Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and tonight we're taking a look at the new Battletomes for the Daughters of Khaine and Nighthaunt. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, both of these are currently available for pre-order at the time of this video releasing, and will be available this following Saturday for the actual release. And these were provided ahead of time by Games Workshop for the purpose of our video. So let's go ahead and break the seals on these. I'm just going to go ahead and break both of them at once. Now, from what I do understand, at the same time of these release, there will also be some new start collecting boxes. But if anything, there won't be any new characters in them at the time of release, at least. Maybe there might be one later on that does include a new character, but I suspect the Arena of Souls is going to still be the only way to actually get those models, the Scribe and the Gladiatrix. All right. So to begin with, opening up Nighthaunt, notice right away that there is some tokens as well as a kind of a ghostly ruler. And then we had this little insert cover thing to cover it up. And it's basically just a duplicate of the backside of the actual tome. Now the covers of these tomes definitely look really good. I love the art style that they're using for these. You know, the kind of more matte background, and then the ones that are in the foreground have that glossy finish. Definitely brings more attention to those figures. Like, especially like since we have Morathi or Morathi, depending on how she's actually called. This is the one that's really standing out. Now, let's go ahead and take a look here. And actually, within a couple of pages, we have the full art page that scene is depicting. And actually, some of the art is what they actually showed with the Arena of Souls announcement as well. And I'm willing to bet that some of the information about Morathi in here is going to coincide with what was in Broken Realms. I never got a chance to actually read all of the Broken Realms books, but from what I hear, they were really awesome and still worth picking up for the story alone that's contained. And I'm hoping to actually do just that. Now, and so, like, looking here with some of the painted examples that they have, you know, we do see the High Gladiatrix included, as well as Melusai Iron Scale. And then we have our heart renders, the Cauldron of Blood, with the statue of Khaine as well. And then there is some images of some of the endless spells. And then we even have the Khainite Shadow Stalkers in here. Now I'm curious if, when we get to the actual rules, if it's also going to include the Shadow Stalkers that are in the Nether Maze. hoping that it does, because with those having already been released, it would be a shame to miss out on individual rules for them as well. Then we go into a painting section, show you how to do like some of the masks and stuff for like Sisters of Slaughter, as well as like the Avatar of Khaine, Bloody Blades, the Cauldron of Blood. And then we finally, on page 64, get into the beginning of the actual rules section. And allegiance abilities, battle traits. So we're just going to pick one at random. All Out Slaughter. You can use this command ability when a friendly Daughters of Khaine unit is picked to fight in the combat phase. The command must be issued by a friendly Daughter of Khaine unit and received by the unit that has been picked to fight. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by that unit in that phase is a 6, that attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1, and make a wound roll and save roll for each hit. So definitely a chance to score some extra damage there for sure. We have some artifacts of power, including gifts of Morathi. One of them is the Bloodbane Venom. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons after the bearer fights. If any wounds caused by attacks made with that weapon in that phase were allocated to an enemy model, and that enemy model has not been slain, roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or greater than that model's wounds characteristic, that model is slain. Now, there are a ton of models that don't have a lot of wounds. So this might work better more for the character models or the leaders, commanders, things like that. We have prayer scriptures, section about the different temples of Khaine. And then the Path to Glory section with some specific quests, veteran abilities and territories, battle plans. One is the Ceremony of Blood. In the picture we got some greenskins versus the Daughters of Khaine. And honestly, like, my favorite parts of the codices or Battletomes is the photos of the models, the paintings, tips and tricks, as well as all the lore. That's what really gets me excited about these. Now, with the Daughters of Khaine models that I do have, we've got the Warcry box, we've got Army of Shadows, and so with those combined, got a pretty decent force. And talking to one of my friends at my local shop, they were telling me that using the models from from Warcry, them plus Morathi is basically, I believe they said 1,000 or 2,000 points total right there, and is completely legal for games doing it that way. Then adding in Arena of Shadows, that's definitely going to bump that number up quite a bit. So definitely building a sizable force. Would definitely like to get their endless spells, because that kind of bleeding or bloody snake spell is just awesome looking. I really would love to paint that, but like keeping up with the aesthetic, it's definitely gonna be very bloody, but at the same time, like, I kind of want to do that model just because of how it looks in like traditional snake colors, and so I might end up having to get 2 of them just so I can do both. But that's a problem for another day, because I have plenty to paint as it is. And then so we go to the match play section, and then we go into the actual character rules. So we see Morathi by herself, and then as well as the Shadow Queen, the Bloodrack Shrine, Musai Ironscale, Bloodrack Medusa, Morgweath the Bloodied, the Blade Coven, Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood, Hag Queen by herself, the Slaughter Queen, and then the Slaughter Queen on the Cauldron of Blood, High Gladiatrix, Sisters of Slaughter, Witch Elves, Avatar of Khaine, the Khainite Shadowstalkers, Doomfire Warlocks, so honestly, I'm quite surprised that we don't have rules for the new warband. Now, I'm assuming that they're going to fall under the Khainite Shadowstalkers, as far as the total points are concerned. But definitely some cool stuff in here. Now, when it comes to the Battletomes, I always recommend trying to get all of them if you can. Obviously for the lore, like I said, but it's also to know your enemies too. So like say for instance you're always playing Nighthaunt, and you have a friend that's going to be playing Daughters of Khaine. Getting a copy of their Battletome is always going to be in your best interest if you're going to read it. So that way you can see and okay. So they have these units at their disposal. We're going to be playing 1,000-point army. Most likely they might pick this and this. And so if they pick those, this is how I'll combat that. And so, with that being the case, it's definitely worth picking up. But we've also seen that for the rest of the year, they have a ton of Battletomes coming out. So it's going to be very difficult to keep up with them if excuse me. So yeah, like I was saying, it's gonna be hard to keep up with them. If you are one of the people that are like me and want to have all of them, to better plan ahead as well as read up on the lore, it's gonna get quite pricey by the end of the year. Which we saw that this winter is going to be the Slaves to Darkness box. We're going to get another Chaos Tome. I believe I saw a couple Order in there, and I know there's at least 2 Destruction. So a lot of big things are coming. And then flipping through, again, we have all the lore, background, the different armies and characters that follow Nagash. And then on page 38, we go into Splendor of Shaiish, which is showing some of the painted models and kind of sets that they've taken photos for. Definitely some cool stuff. The guy in the boat, the Allrack the Drowner, I believe is still not available yet, so it should be coming soon and it looks awesome. I would expect him to come out either sometime this month or next month at the latest. And then our painting guide. And then finally on page 56 we go into the actual army rules. And so let's go ahead and just take a look at one of the artifacts of power. Reaper of Sorrows. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. Before the bearer attacks with that weapon, pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of the bearer and roll 2d6. If the result is higher than the target's bravery characteristic, that weapon's rend characteristic is -3 for attacks made against that unit until the end of the phase. The weapon's rend characteristic is -4 instead of -3 if the target is terrified. So definitely a chance to score some extra hits or extra damage, just based on whether or not the enemies are afraid. And that's one aspect that I've always really enjoyed with these games, added a bit of realism, is that at some point, facing some of these unstoppable foes, you're gonna have your soldiers, turn tail and run at some point, and it's only natural. And some might call it strategic withdrawal. Others might call it getting it the hell out of there. So that is one thing that they've always done well with, and I'm glad that they keep that still as part of the game. Then we go to the different processions, specifically the themes of your army. Now, with the undead Nighthaunts, one thing I always thought was kind of weird is that Nagash basically rules all of the undead, so it would seem like his Battletome, or the Battletome for the Nighthaunt, really should encompass all of the other undead, the Soulblight Gravelords, the Oziark Bone Reapers, and compile them all together, just because they all fall under the same god in the end. So to me that makes sense, but apparently that's not the way that they wanted to do it. So then we go into Path of Glory. There are some veteran abilities in here, like Shrieking Reapers. This unit can use the veteran ability once per battle at the start of your charge phase. When it does so until the end of that phase, change the unmodified charge rule required for this unit to apply Wave of Terror effects. 3 to 6 for Shriek, 7 to 8 for Stun, 9+ to Petrify. And then we have some heroic upgrades. And then our Path to Glory with some specific campaigns. And then our match play as well, and some battle tactics. And then going into the actual character rules. Now we have Nagash and Lady Olander. Kurdos Valentian, Alrak the Drowner, Scriptor Mortis. I'm just looking to see if there's any others that are here that we haven't seen before. Now, one I don't remember is the Dead Scythe Heritance, but based on the way the model looks, I'm guessing it's been here for quite a while, but I do not recognize it. We have the Black Coach. The Black Coach is honestly one of my favorite all-time models. One of the first pieces I built, back in the 90s, I'd built the original Black Coach, and then I moved to Arizona and basically sold everything, and then a few years later got back into the hobby, and I believe it was like 2004, 2005, picked up the Black Coach again and actually did this big conversion where it was kind of more like ramping up and flying into the sky, kind of like Santa's sleigh. And at some point ended up selling that as well. And so because of that, I've always wanted to revisit the new Black Coach and doing essentially the same thing there, or something entirely different, whatever strikes at that time. And then we see the Hex Race, and then as well as the actual endless spells. And then lastly, our pitch battle reports. So there are all the points values. Snap them quick if you want them. But definitely some cool stuff there. And like I said, you know, if you are a player that doesn't play them, still getting the tomes is always a good idea, again, to, you know your enemies. And, you know, of course, if, you know, you play with the same people every time and none of them play Nighthaunt or Daughters of Khaine, then, you know, getting the tome for yourself isn't necessarily a great idea there. But, you know, every minute that you spent learning, you know, the more growth you can have in the long run. And, you know, so it definitely can help you there for sure. But wanted to, you know, thank you guys again for watching. As always, thank you to Games Workshop for providing these for our video. Definitely appreciate the both immensely. You know, without either one of those, you know, we wouldn't be here. So you know, again, thank you to all, and have yourselves a great night. Thank you.